This is the IAR 316B, a Romanian built derivative of the French Alouette III helicopter. In War Thunder, this is a premium helicopter on the French line at Tier 5 BR 8.3, and it gives the interesting combination of a French helicopter design using Soviet weapons. The IAR has a single loadout preset, 6 9M14-2 anti-tank guided missiles, 32 S5K unguided rockets, and 2 7.62mm PKA machine guns. The ATGMs firstly have 800mm of effective penetration and can reach a maximum velocity of 220 meters per second up to a range of 1.86 miles. This will allow you to maintain a somewhat safe distance from enemy ground vehicles, while having 6 of the ATGMs allows you to gain a good amount of kills per flyout. The unguided rockets and guns then provide a set of backup weapons essentially if your ATGMs have all been used, with the rockets proving to be useful at killing lighter enemy ground units, and the guns, while fairly weak, being able to kill enemy helicopters and in some lucky cases enemy aircraft. In terms of flight characteristics, it is as expected for a heli at this BR. It has a fair amount of agility and a decent top speed, not necessarily high performance, but it is good enough to get the job done. One thing worth noting is that the IAR does rock back and forth slightly when the collective pitch is being lowered or raised any large amount. This is something worth keeping in mind when you're flying at low level. In terms of additional features, the IAR has standard night vision, and that's about it, which does leave the IAR fairly open to infrared guided missile attacks due to the lack of countermeasures, and no warning of radar due to the lack of a radar warning receiver system. On a positive note, the IAR does have a few camouflage options: the blue standard camouflage, tricolour late camouflage, and then the pre-order bonus camouflage that was available for people who ordered this vehicle when it was first released. There are currently 4 game modes that allow for the use of the IAR 316, ground realistic battles, arcade assault, helicopter battles, and ground simulator. In this video we're going to be looking at the first 3 of those, with a focus mainly on ground RB, as that is the mode where this helicopter feels more at home. So our first game is on the map Sinai, and it is worth saying right away that when I am playing helis in ground RB, this is my favourite map to get. You have this side of the map that I'm on currently that just has a huge amount of hills, big boulders, loads of rocks, and it makes it incredibly easy to get to cover whenever you're being engaged by enemy ground vehicles or aircraft, and just generally if you fly low, you can easily get very close to the enemy ground vehicles without being spotted, which is very nice when you're flying a low heli such as the IAR. Already taken out a Russian tank, I see a T-10 engaging friendly vehicles, and of course that is something that I'm sure they would appreciate me taking out, which I do. Single shot to the side, knocks out the turret crew, sets off the ammunition. That is then my second kill so far. 2 ATGMs used, 2 kills. I continue to look out. I am actually basically on the enemy side of the map at this point, hiding behind these rocks, hoping that basically the enemy tanks and the enemy aircraft will be focusing more primarily on the tank map rather than me off to the side hiding near these rocks. Just generally looking around, I know that there was the T-10 pushing some friendly vehicles, and of course that sort of top hill part here that I'm looking at is a very easy way for the enemy tanks to get down to our spawn point, and that is of course something that I would like to avoid. Looking around though, just trying to spot them, that is the hill where they come up from their spawn point, so it's highly likely that some of them will drive up that hill hoping to get to my spawn, as this enemy tank is. First ATGM goes in, and it's getting in there, and it doesn't quite kill him, but it does do a fairly critical amount of damage. He's definitely not going to be moving, which makes him even more of an easy target. Second shot goes in, ammunition goes off, and that is my 3rd kill of this match. So as you will see, I am not hovering the helicopter. One thing a lot of people do, especially when they're new to flying helis in game, is they will just go to just within their ATGM range, and they'll go into the hover. Very obvious target. You don't want to do that. You want to be just moving around, and if, like I am now, I've got the sight stabilized, so it's fairly easy to hit enemy vehicles while still slightly on the move, moving to the side, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for the enemy to actually hit you. There's a BTR, obviously a slight up tier for that little guy, but obviously my ATGM is going to do a fair amount of damage when it hits, and that does take him out with relative ease. Even though that is obviously a far lower BR than my heli, it is an SPAA, and he might get lucky and somehow destroy my helicopter. The IAR, of course, while yes, it is a heli with good armament, it does not have any armor per se, so you don't want to get hit by any sort of higher caliber machine guns or cannons, so it's best just to deal with them as they come. And as you can see, BMP2, another thing I would like to deal with. He has ATGMs, he could try and kill me with one of them, or he could use his autocannon to try and take me out. Now, talking of SPAA, I'm now out of ATGMs, but I saw a Shulker and a ZSU-57 spawn. I was going to run away back to my spawn, but then I thought, you know what? Let's see if these rockets can actually do something. And it turns out they can. That's the Shulker down. And then the ZSU-57 starts very quickly turning his turret in my general direction. And I can take him out as well. That was 2 SPAAs just sort of rushed. Basically, I just flew around behind their spawn. Another example of how the rocks on this map, on Sinai, are brilliant for small helis like this. You can sneak up right behind the enemy, they have no idea that you're there, and then you can just pop up, spam all your rockets at them, take them out, and then run off. So after going back to the base and rearming, I've already wasted one of my missiles, but I fire off a missile at this enemy ground vehicle, get a hit, T-54 taken out, and as you can see, we are actually uncapping the enemy A point. Next enemy I come into contact with is an air vehicle, it's an Mi-4. Yeah, helis can be quite dangerous if they're played right, so I feel the best thing to do is just to take out the Mi-4, which I then do. ATGM hits him, and very destructively he is dead, and as you can see in the chat, I did notify my team, enemy heli up, and then I let them know that that enemy heli had been dealt with, and that is a good thing to do. If you're in a heli, don't just tunnel vision on getting yourself kills, also sort of be a scout, let your team know there's an enemy heli up, there's an enemy aircraft up, oh, there's a tank over here sniping. Try and help your team out as much as you can so that you're actually contributing as well as you can to winning the game. And as you can see, that was my 10th kill. I have an air kill and 9 ground kills, so that's a double ace already. And now I'm going for my 11th kill on a T10. Big heavy tank. Decent survivability. Usually they can take 1 or 2 missiles. But the thing is, it is a massive target, so it's very easy to hit. I do now have 1 missile left. I knocked out his track. He's not moving. He's essentially just a stationary target now. He is firing some of these MGs at me, but I can just move a little bit and ideally avoid those shots. And that there is my 11th kill, and the game is essentially over. A MiG-9 does come in. He shoots at me. I spam my unguideds at him just to try and get a hit. Don't get a hit, but the game is then over. He doesn't kill me, and that is an 11 kill match in the IAR. And I would dare say that was probably one of the best heli games I have ever had in War Thunder. It's just due to a great combination of a helicopter that's very good for its current battle rating, and also a map that is very good for helicopters in terms of keeping covered and avoiding enemy fire. This game that we're currently watching now, though, is slightly different. It does still have a decent kill count, but it's more just to demonstrate something that is common to helicopters as a whole, but also demonstrates the IAR's decent flight performance and weapons. First off, engaging a Leopard through some trees. He was hiding just off the map, and I presume attempting to snipe into the town to kill friendly tanks. Now, I do waste 3 ATGMs on him, due to the trees making it a bit tricky to see exactly where the sort of centre of mass of his vehicle was. I then see that a Japanese infantry fighting vehicle is spawned. He has to be the priority. He has anti-tank guided missiles he could shoot me with, and a autocannon that he could also shoot me with, so taking him down is ideal. That's what I want to do. Unfortunately, though, I'm quite close to the tank map, as these ATGMs, of course, only have 1.86 miles of range, and he spawns in an SPAA. I don't have radar warning receiver, which does then mean that I don't realise he's actually locked onto me. I do see him, I start to dive, but he gets a lucky hit. He knocks off one of my gear legs, and he completely destroys my yaw control, my tail rotor control. That means that the heli at low speeds is essentially uncontrollable, but at high speeds it has enough sort of aerodynamic control from those small rudders and the small tailplane to actually allow it to fly. I get back to the airfield, I put it into hover mode. It's a bit spinny, but I get it down onto the ground. And your helicopter is critically damaged and repair is not available. So what do? Do I give up? No, I do not give up. I rearm the helicopter. I get my 6 ATGMs back, I get my rockets, I get my guns reloaded. And, after a bit of a hectic attempt to get into level flight, you see, taking off stationary with no tail control, it just spins out of control. You need to get enough horizontal velocity to actually have an aerodynamic effect to keep it in a straight line. So after a bit of rolling around and actually getting the thing to accelerate, I get enough aerodynamic control and I'm able to actually get the heli going in a roughly straight line. And then in a helicopter that was too badly damaged to be repaired, I get another 4 kills. Firstly, a Leopard 1, then I spot an Owl hiding near some buildings. That vehicle, of course, has hull break, so any hit is more or less guaranteed to give me the kill. That there is my second kill after flying this critically damaged vehicle that cannot be repaired. I then just look around on the map. The enemy does win this game, they have pushed very aggressively, but I spot an R3, cute little Russian race car with these recoilless rifles. He does a little jump trying to look cool, but my missile's just like, nah mate, and it blows him up. And then I begin to head off because I do need to turn around to reposition to try and spot some more enemy vehicles. But the tail control's damaged, so I kind of need to fly off and do a very wide turn to keep the speed up so my heli doesn't spin out of control. And I am also being shot at, so I decide to descend a little bit. After turning around, I reposition, take a look at the town. They are capping the A point. Unfortunately, I can't see any of them. But then I do begin taking fire from an M48. He's sitting on that hill. He's looking at me a little bit aggressively, so I fire a missile, and I do then take him out before the SPAA damage that was not allowed to be repaired finally takes my heli down with my engine failing. And even then, another enemy tank fires a shot at me. So I fire an ATGM, and I get a critical hit, basically a surface-to-surface missile. Fire the missile, get kicked out of my vehicle, and boom, critical hit. There we go. Some little more RP and SL for me. Now that we've taken a look at some decent ground RB games, let's move on to 2 other game modes, Arcade Assault and Helicopter Battles Enjoying Confrontation. Now in Arcade Assault, the IAR can be used fairly well against enemy ground units with a combination of the unguided rockets and the ATGMs, but there will be a slight issue that majority of these ground units do have turret-mounted machine guns, and the IAR is essentially just a bubble containing the crew members with no armor. So it's very easy for those machine guns to just spam at you and knock out your helicopter, so you will need to maintain a little bit of range to minimize the risk of that happening. You will also have trouble dealing with the enemy SPAA units when they spawn in, and enemy aircraft. You can't really do much against these. The SPAA, there tends to be a few of them, and they're very accurate, so you will need to try and keep on the move while guiding each ATGM towards that target. And then the aircraft, you may get lucky and shoot them down with your guns or ATGM, but majority of the time, there's not really much you can do. This game mode also does give fairly low rewards, so it might not be ideal from a grinding perspective. Helicopter battles, on the other hand, can be somewhat decent for grinding, but in most cases the IAR will be painfully outmatched. Attacking enemy ground units is of course a viable idea. You have your rockets for more heavy targets and then your guns for lighter targets, and you could save your ATGMs for any possible contact with enemy helicopters. A pure anti-helicopter playstyle is possible, but not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Most enemy helicopters will easily outrange you with their missiles and even be able to lock on air-to-air missiles before you can even get in range to use your ATGMs. So flying low first off is certainly a good idea to avoid detection, and if you do get close, you'll usually be outgunned, but using a combination of your machine guns to possibly get a pilot snipe or do some other form of critical damage, and then also just spamming your rockets at closer ranges, it can be fairly likely that you will knock out enemy helicopters. Your ATGMs are also going to be one of the more effective ways of killing enemy helicopters, but it is worth keeping in mind that they are first generation missiles, meaning that they are generally slower and much less agile than the majority of the competition that you will be seeing, and they also lack any form of lock-on feature, unlike the later ATGMs that you will be facing in this game mode. In both Assault and Enjoying Confrontation, the IAR is certainly not that competitive in the current meta, which is why I mostly stick to Ground RB, where it seems to do much better at its 8.3 BR. Of course, the IAR 316 has now been removed from the Gaijin store as of a few months ago at the time of making this video, although it wouldn't surprise me if it returns as some part of a discount bundle or as a GE premium at some point in the future. In which case, if it does and you wish to play this helicopter in Ground RB, it is certainly worth it. Not so much for Assault or Heli EC, but in Ground RB it is certainly a very competitive helicopter that can be played pretty well. Of course, if you have any other questions regarding this helicopter or helicopters in War Thunder as a whole, do drop them down in the comments and I will do my best to give a decent answer. If you did enjoy the video or found it useful, please do consider leaving a like, maybe even subscribe to the channel for more content like this, in which case your subscription would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.